Mauricio Umansky opens the door to possibility. Mauricio Umansky wasn't used to silence. For most of his adult life, his world had been loud. Laughter-filled dinners at home, the bustling noise of open houses, the constant hum of production crews, and the everyday soundtrack of life with 4 daughters and a wife who matched his energy beat for beat. But now, as he sat alone on the edge of a deck overlooking the city lights of Los Angeles, silence felt like a new and unwelcome guest. It settled over him like fog. He exhaled slowly, watching the November air turn his breath into mist. Thanksgiving had just passed, another holiday spent balancing old traditions with new realities. His daughter Alexia had tried to keep things upbeat. Farah had played mediator, and the younger girls had flitted between the comfort of habit and the uncertainty that came with change. And Kyle, well, Kyle had been there, smiling softly, ensuring everyone felt loved, even as the invisible line between them made the holiday table feel different. He hadn't expected the separation to feel so final, but it didn't. Not completely. Still thinking? A voice called behind him. Portia stepped outside, wrapping her sweater tighter around her shoulders. She'd grown so much in the past 2 years, steadier, more mature, but never losing the gentleness that made her the family's anchor even at her young age. Mauricio smiled. Always. She walked over, settling beside him. Mom said you've been quiet tonight. He raised a brow. Your mom's always analyzing me. Portia giggled. She cares. I know, he admitted, staring back at the twinkling skyline. I care too. The unspoken understanding. Kyle Richards was inside, helping clean up after a small family dinner. The girls were adults, but old habits died hard. She still moved through the kitchen like a captain steering her ship, directing, observing, anticipating needs before they even surfaced. She looked peaceful tonight, calmer than she had in a long time. Mauricio watched her through the glass doors, noticing the way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear as she spoke to Safia. He'd seen that simple gesture thousands of times. Funny how something so small could still tug at his heart. Portia followed his gaze. Do you miss her? He blinked. That obvious. No, she said gently, but I know you. He didn't answer immediately. We've been through a lot. We needed space to figure things out, to figure ourselves out. Does space mean forever? He almost laughed. Kids had a way of asking the real questions without decoration. That's what I'm trying to understand, he said finally. Portia placed a hand on his arm. Maybe you don't have to understand it tonight. Inside the house. Later, when the girls retreated to the living room, Kyle stepped outside, joining him for the first real moment they'd been alone in days. She carried 2 mugs of tea, offering him one with a tentative smile. Chamomile, she said. You still drink it before bed? He accepted the mug, unless I'm feeling rebellious. Her laugh was quiet but warm, and for a moment, it was like old times, just the two of them, talking about nothing and everything. The air between them had softened over the past year, shifting from tension to something gentler. Healing was never linear, but they were finding pockets of peace. How was today? She asked. Good, he said. Different, but good. Different seems to be our theme lately. He nodded. Different doesn't have to be bad. She leaned against the rail, sipping her tea. The lights reflected in her eyes, giving them an almost golden glow. They stood in silence, comfortable now, not strained. A small breeze swept through the yard, tugging at her hair. You look happy, he said quietly. Kyle shot him a sideways glance. Happy? Not every day, but I'm working toward it. Makes 2 of us. She sighed, her shoulders relaxing. I'm proud of us, for not letting everything fall apart, for staying connected. We're family, he said simply. That doesn't change. Her lips curved into a wistful smile. No, it doesn't. Old photos, new feelings. Hours later, after the girls went to bed, Mauricio found himself wandering through the hall. The family photos, once taken for granted, felt like artifacts now. He paused at one from a ski trip years ago. Kyle stood in the center, his arms wrapped around her shoulders, both smiling as snowflakes caught in their hair. He heard footsteps and turned to see Kyle approaching. "You always loved that picture," she said. "It was a good day." "It was," she agreed softly. "One of our best trips." He didn't look away. "We had a lot of good days." Kyle folded her arms, leaning against the wall beside him. "We did. We also had days we didn't know how to talk to each other." "I know. But we're getting better," she said. "Aren't we?" Mauricio nodded, his voice quiet. "Yeah, we are." She studied him with a thoughtful expression. "You've changed this year." "So have you." "I had to," she said, meeting his gaze. "I think we both had to." He hesitated, then asked, "Do you ever think about us?" Her expression softened, but didn't waver. "Every day. But thinking doesn't mean rushing, or undoing the growth we've both made." "We don't have to rush," he said, "but I haven't closed the door. Not completely." Kyle inhaled slowly, her eyes flicking toward the family room and then back to him. "Neither have I." A walk through memory. The next morning, the two woke early, habit, not intention. Kyle suggested a walk, just the way they used to before their days spiraled into chaos. The sun had barely risen when they stepped outside, the sky painted with soft gold. They wandered through the familiar neighborhood, passing old trees, friendly joggers, and the cafe where they'd shared countless breakfasts. "This place hasn't changed," Mauricio said. "We've changed," Kyle replied. "Maybe that's what makes it look different." As they walked, conversations flowed easily. Updates on work, the girls' goals, the holiday season. Nothing too deep, but nothing empty either. Eventually, they reached the small overlook where they used to sit during evening walks. "Remember when we brought the girls here for fireworks one year?" Kyle asked. He smiled. "Farah was terrified of the noise. You held her the whole time. And you kept pretending the fireworks were dragons just to make her laugh." He chuckled. "I was a great dragon." "You were," she said warmly. "You still are." The compliment lingered in the cool air between them. "You know," Mauricio said quietly, "everyone assumes we're done. Finished, like the story's over." Kyle stared out over the hill. "People like clear endings. Life doesn't always give you those." She turned to him, her voice gentler. "What does life give you, Mo?" He took a breath. "Opportunities, second chances, space to figure things out." Her eyes softened. "Are you saying you want a second chance?" "I'm saying," he paused, searching for the right words. "I'm saying I'm open to one, if it's right, if we're both in the right place, if it's healthy." Kyle didn't answer right away. Instead, she stepped closer, their shoulders nearly touching. "I'm not ready today," she said honestly, "but I'm not ruling anything out either." The sunlight caught her hair as she spoke, and Mauricio felt the familiar ache of something long cherished and recently rediscovered, the possibility that love could evolve instead of ending. The door that never closed. When they returned home, the girls were preparing breakfast, the kitchen filled with music and laughter. It looked like every holiday morning they'd ever had. Mauricio and Kyle exchanged a glance, the kind that spoke without words. Farah noticed them first. "You two look happy," she said knowingly. Kyle raised a brow. "We're allowed to be happy, aren't we?" "Of course," Farah said, grinning. "Just checking." As the morning unfolded into pancakes and storytelling, Mauricio felt something shift, something subtle but real. The air between him and Kyle felt warmer now, more hopeful. Healing wasn't dramatic or loud. Sometimes it was a series of quiet moments that stacked together until they formed something solid. Later, as the girls cleaned up, Kyle slipped beside him. "I'm glad you stayed last night," she said, her voice soft. "Me too. And I'm glad we talked." "Me too," he repeated. "Are you okay with whatever this is?" Kyle gave a tiny nod. "I am," I don't want pressure. I don't want expectations. I just want honesty and time. You'll have both, he promised. And Mo. Yeah? Her eyes were warm but steady. Just because a chapter is complicated doesn't mean the story ends. He smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. A shared future, undefined but hopeful. That evening, after everyone had gone, Mauricio stood on the porch, watching the sun set over the hills. Kyle joined him again, leaning on the railing, her presence familiar and grounding. You thinking again? She teased. Always. She nudged him lightly. Don't overthink us. Let things unfold naturally. I can do that. She hesitated, then added, and for what it's worth, I'm glad you haven't closed the door. Mauricio turned toward her, the fading sunlight catching the hopeful curve of her smile. I don't think I ever could, he said. Kyle held his gaze for a long moment. Then maybe, she whispered, there's still something here worth exploring. He didn't reach for her hand. She didn't lean into him. But the quiet between them felt full, not empty. Something new was beginning. Something slow. Something honest. Something real.